There exists within you a secret pathway that ancient wisdom keepers knew intimately, yet modern science has only recently begun to understand. This hidden gateway connects every breath you take to the deepest chambers of your heart, every thought you think to the very cells of your being. It is a river of peace that flows through you right now, waiting to be awakened, waiting to transform your entire experience of being alive. Your nervous system holds within it an extraordinary capacity for healing that most people never discover. Like a sleeping giant, it rests in the background of your daily experience, occasionally stirring when you feel deeply moved by beauty, when you laugh until tears flow, or when you sink into the most restorative sleep. Yet what if this gentle giant could be awakened intentionally? What if the very pathway that carries stress and overwhelm could become your greatest ally in finding lasting peace? The ancient teachers understood something profound about the human body that we are only now rediscovering through the lens of modern neuroscience. They knew that within the intricate network of your nervous system lies a special nerve, like a golden thread woven through the fabric of your being. This thread, when properly activated, becomes a bridge between the constant chatter of your thinking mind and the profound stillness that lives in your deepest center. When this pathway awakens, something remarkable happens. The tight grip of anxiety begins to loosen. The racing thoughts that chase each other endlessly through your mind start to slow. Your heart finds its natural rhythm. Your breathing deepens without effort, and a sense of safety spreads through your entire being, like warm sunlight melting frozen ground. You may have experienced glimpses of this state without even realizing it. Perhaps it was during those precious moments just before sleep, when your body finally releases the day's tension and sinks into perfect stillness. Or maybe it occurred during a moment of deep connection with another person, when time seemed to stop and you felt held by something larger than yourself. These experiences are not accidents. They are previews of what becomes possible when this hidden gateway opens. The wisdom traditions have always taught that healing begins with understanding the intimate connection between mind and body, between the thoughts we think and the sensations we feel. They recognize that true wellness is not simply the absence of symptoms, but the presence of a deep, abiding sense of wholeness that touches every aspect of our experience. Your nervous system is constantly listening, constantly responding to the messages you send it through your thoughts, your breathing, your posture, your environment. It is far more intelligent than we often give it credit for, capable of learning, adapting, and transforming in ways that can seem miraculous. Yet, like any living system, it requires the right conditions to flourish, the right kind of attention to awaken its healing potential. What makes this pathway so powerful is its accessibility. Unlike healing modalities that require special equipment or lengthy training, this gateway can be activated through simple, gentle practices that honor both the wisdom of ancient traditions and the insights of modern science. It asks only for your willingness to turn your attention inward, to befriend the very nervous system that has been working tirelessly to keep you alive since the moment you were born. The journey of nervous system healing is not about forcing your body into compliance or pushing through discomfort with willpower. Instead, it is about learning to listen with the kind of tender attention you might offer to a beloved friend who is sharing their deepest fears. It is about creating conditions of such safety and gentleness that your nervous system can finally exhale. Finally trust that it is okay to let down its guard. When this happens, the effects ripple outward in ways that transform not just your inner experience, but your relationships, your work, your entire engagement with life. Colors seem more vivid, connections feel deeper, and challenges that once felt overwhelming become manageable. You begin to move through the world with a quality of presence that others can feel, creating a field of calm that benefits everyone around you. This is not a promise of perfection or the elimination of all difficulty from your life. The human experience will always include its share of challenges, losses, and uncertainties. But when your nervous system is functioning in its optimal state, you meet these challenges from a place of resource rather than depletion, from wisdom rather than reactivity. The pathway I am inviting you to explore has been walked by countless others before you. It is both deeply personal and universally accessible, both profoundly simple and endlessly rich in its possibilities for transformation. Each person's journey along this path will be unique, shaped by their own history, their own needs, their own capacity for healing. What remains constant is the invitation itself, to turn toward your own nervous system with curiosity rather than judgment, to approach your own healing with the same compassion you would offer to someone you love deeply. This is where all lasting transformation begins, in the gentle recognition that you already possess everything you need to heal. Have you ever experienced moments when your nervous system felt completely at peace? When stress seemed to melt away without any effort on your part? Share your experiences in the comments below. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. The breath that flows through you right now carries within it the power to transform your entire nervous system. Yet most of us breathe as if we are merely surviving, taking in just enough air to keep the machinery of our bodies running, never discovering that each breath is an invitation to profound healing, a gateway to states of peace that seem almost magical in their simplicity. There is something sacred about the rhythm of breathing that the ancient wisdom keepers understood intuitively. They recognized that breath is the bridge between the voluntary and involuntary aspects of our being, the one function of our body that happens automatically, yet can be consciously directed. In this unique quality lies its extraordinary power to influence our nervous system in ways that can seem miraculous to those who have lived for years in states of chronic tension and overwhelm. When you breathe in the way your body truly longs to breathe, something beautiful happens in the intricate network of your nervous system. That golden thread we spoke of begins to vibrate with a different frequency, sending messages of safety and calm to every corner of your being. Your heart rate naturally slows, your blood pressure gently decreases, and your mind begins to settle into a state of alert relaxation that feels both deeply restful and vibrantly alive. The breath that activates this healing response is not the shallow, hurried breathing that most of us have unconsciously adopted as our default. Instead, it is the deep, slow, rhythmic breathing that emerges when we finally feel completely safe, completely held. It is the breathing of a child, sleeping peacefully in loving arms, of a person lying in a meadow, watching clouds drift across an endless sky, of someone who has temporarily forgotten all the reasons why they should be worried or rushed. Learning to breathe in this healing way is like learning to speak a language that your nervous system understands perfectly. Each long, slow exhale is a message that says, it is safe to let go. Each gentle, full inhale is a declaration that you are worthy of nourishment, worthy of the life force that surrounds and sustains all living things. Your body, which may have been holding its breath in anticipation of the next crisis for months or even years, begins to remember what it feels like to breathe freely. The most profound aspect of conscious breathing is how it teaches us about the nature of letting go. In our culture, we often approach healing as if it requires tremendous effort, as if we must somehow force our bodies and minds into states of wellness through sheer determination. But the breath teaches us a different way. It shows us that the most powerful healing happens not through doing, but through allowing the exhale to be complete, allowing the natural pause that follows, allowing the next inhale to arise organically from the stillness. This quality of allowing extends far beyond the physical act of breathing. As you develop a deeper relationship with your breath, you begin to discover that the same gentle, non-forcing approach that makes breathing so healing can be applied to every aspect of your life. Difficult emotions that once felt overwhelming can be met with the same patient presence you bring to a long exhale. Challenging situations that used to trigger immediate reactivity can be approached with the spaciousness that comes from remembering to breathe. The ancient teachers often spoke of breath as the thread that connects us to the larger web of life, the invisible current that flows between all living beings. Modern science confirms this understanding in its own way, showing us how the oxygen we breathe has been cycling through the atmosphere for millions of years, connecting us to every plant, every animal, every person who has ever lived. When we breathe consciously, we participate in this ancient dance with reverence and awareness. One of the most beautiful aspects of breathwork for nervous system healing is how it naturally attunes us to the present moment. Anxiety lives in projections about the future. Depression often dwells in regrets about the past, but breath exists only now. When your attention rests fully with the sensation of breathing, the mind's tendency to spiral into worry or rumination begins to quiet naturally, not through force or suppression, but through the gentle redirection of attention to what is actually happening in this moment. As you begin to explore conscious breathing, you may notice that your body has its own wisdom about what kind of breath it needs in any given moment. Sometimes it calls for the soft, gentle breathing that soothes an overstimulated nervous system. Other times, it asks for the deep, energizing breath that awakens vitality and clarity. Learning to listen to these subtle requests from your body is part of developing the intimate relationship with your nervous system that makes profound healing possible. The practice of sacred breathing is not about perfecting a technique or achieving a particular state. Instead, it is about cultivating a quality of presence and gentleness toward your own life force that gradually transforms how you move through the world. Each conscious breath becomes an act of self-care, a moment of coming home to yourself, a small but significant step along the path of healing. Your breath is always available to you, requiring no special equipment or perfect conditions. Whether you are sitting in traffic, lying in bed unable to sleep, or facing a difficult conversation, the healing power of conscious breathing is as close as your next exhale. This accessibility makes it one of the most practical and sustainable tools for nervous system wellness, a practice that can grow with you and support you through all the seasons of your life. As you begin to work with your breath in this way, remember that healing happens gradually, like the slow unfurling of a flower or the patient erosion of stone by water. Each breath you take with awareness is contributing to a larger process of transformation that extends far beyond what you can see or measure in any single moment. Your body is not merely a vessel that carries you through life. It is a living temple where every sensation, every movement, every moment of stillness holds the potential for profound healing. Yet so many of us have learned to live as strangers in our own skin, disconnected from the wisdom that flows through our muscles, bones, and tissues, missing the constant communication that our nervous system is trying to share with us through the language of sensation. When you begin to approach your body as sacred space rather than as something to be controlled or overcome, everything changes. The tension you carry in your shoulders begins to tell its story. The tightness in your chest reveals the fears you have been holding. The chronic pain in your lower back speaks of burdens you have been carrying far too long. Your body, which may have felt like an enemy or an inconvenience, reveals itself to be your most faithful ally in the journey toward wholeness. The ancient wisdom traditions understood that the body holds memory in ways that the conscious mind cannot always access. Every experience you have ever had leaves its imprint in your tissues, creating patterns of holding and release that either support your vitality or drain it. Traumatic experiences, chronic stress, and even subtle but persistent emotional patterns create areas of tension and restriction that affect not only how you feel physically, but how freely your life force can flow through the intricate network of your nervous system. Learning to listen to your body with genuine curiosity and compassion is like learning to read a language you once knew fluently, but have somehow forgotten. As you begin to pay attention to the subtle sensations that arise and pass away moment by moment, you discover that your body is constantly offering you information about what it needs, what it is ready to release, and what it is calling you to understand more deeply. The practice of mindful movement becomes a conversation between your conscious awareness and the unconscious intelligence of your nervous system. When you move slowly and deliberately, paying attention to how each gesture feels from the inside, you give your body permission to unwind the patterns of tension that have been locked in place for months or even years. A simple stretch becomes an act of love. A gentle twist releases not just physical tightness, but the emotional residue of experiences you thought you had already processed. There is something profoundly healing about learning to inhabit your body fully, to feel yourself breathing, to sense the weight of your bones, to experience the aliveness that pulses through every cell. So many of us live primarily in our heads, thinking our way through life, while our bodies remain tense, disconnected, and starved for attention. When you begin to drop your awareness down into your physical being, you discover resources for calm and resilience that you never knew existed. The nervous system responds to gentle, loving touch with a cascade of healing responses. When you place your hands on your heart and breathe slowly, you activate pathways of self-soothing that can transform your entire state of being within minutes. When you massage your neck and shoulders with tender attention, you send messages of safety and care directly to the parts of your nervous system that have been working overtime to keep you upright and functional. Your posture itself tells the story of how you meet the world. Shoulders that curl forward speak of protection and defense. A jaw that remains constantly clenched reveals the words you have not allowed yourself to speak. Hips that lock with tension hold the emotions you have been afraid to feel fully. As you learn to soften these patterns with patient awareness, you create space for your nervous system to find new ways of being, new possibilities for ease and flow. The practice of body awareness is not about achieving perfect alignment or eliminating all discomfort. Instead, it is about developing such an intimate, loving relationship with your physical being that you can sense what it needs moment by moment and respond with kindness. Sometimes your body needs movement, sometimes it needs stillness. Sometimes it needs to be held, sometimes it needs space to express and release what it has been carrying. One of the most beautiful discoveries along this path is how your relationship with your body becomes a template for how you relate to everything else in your life. As you learn to approach physical sensations without immediately trying to fix or change them, you develop the capacity to be present with difficult emotions without being overwhelmed by them. As you practice listening to your body's wisdom, you strengthen your ability to trust your intuition in all areas of your life. The body remembers every kindness you offer it. Each moment of gentle attention, each conscious breath, each loving touch becomes part of a larger pattern of healing that extends far beyond the physical realm. Your nervous system, which may have learned to expect criticism and judgment, begins to remember what it feels like to be truly cared for, truly valued, truly safe. When you treat your body as a temple, you naturally begin to make choices that honor its well-being. The foods you choose to nourish yourself with become acts of reverence. The rest you allow yourself becomes a form of worship. The movement you engage in becomes a celebration of the miracle of embodied life. This transformation in how you relate to your physical being creates ripples that extend into every relationship you have. As you learn to be truly present in your own body, you develop the capacity to be fully present with others. As you practice compassion toward your own physical limitations and imperfections, you naturally extend that same compassion to the bodies and beings around you. The temple of your body is not a destination you arrive at through perfect practice. It is a recognition that blooms gradually as you learn to see the sacred in the ordinary miracle of being alive in physical form. Each day offers countless opportunities to deepen this recognition, to treat your body not as an object to be managed, but as a living expression of the same life force that moves through all things. Within the chambers of your being lies an instrument more sophisticated than any orchestra, more healing than any medicine, more accessible than any external remedy. Your voice, your breath vibrating through the pathways of your body, carries frequencies that can transform your nervous system in ways that seem almost magical to those who have never experienced the profound healing power of sound. The ancient teachers knew that sound is not merely something we hear with our ears. It is a vibrational force that moves through every cell, every tissue, every pathway of our being. When we create sounds consciously, we become both the musician and the instrument, both the healer and the one being healed. The vibrations we generate travel along that golden thread of the nervous system we have been exploring, carrying messages of peace and restoration to places that words cannot reach. There is something deeply primal about the healing power of sound that connects us to our earliest experiences of safety and love. Before we understood language, before we could make sense of the world through thinking, we knew the comfort of a mother's humming, the security of a heartbeat heard from within the womb, the peace that came from voices that spoke to us with tenderness and care. These memories live in our nervous system at levels far deeper than conscious recall, and they respond with recognition when we offer ourselves the gift of healing sound. The simplest and perhaps most powerful of these healing sounds is the gentle hum that emerges when you close your mouth and allow sound to vibrate through your chest and throat. This humming is not about creating a beautiful melody or achieving any particular note. It is about allowing your body to remember what it feels like to purr like a contented cat, to vibrate with the same frequency as deep satisfaction and peace. When you hum softly to yourself, you create an internal massage that your nervous system finds irresistibly soothing. The vibrations stimulate that precious pathway we have been exploring, sending waves of relaxation throughout your entire being. Your heart rate naturally slows, your breathing deepens, and the constant chatter of mental activity begins to quiet, not through force or effort, but through the simple physics of vibration, creating resonance and harmony. The beauty of working with sound for nervous system healing is how immediately accessible it is. You carry this healing instrument with you wherever you go, requiring no special training or equipment to begin experiencing its benefits. A few minutes of gentle humming while stuck in traffic can transform your entire state of being. A soft ah sound released during a long exhale can help you let go of tension you did not even know you were carrying. As you begin to explore the healing power of your voice, you may discover that certain sounds seem to resonate more deeply than others, creating sensations of release and relief that extend far beyond what you might expect from such a simple practice. These are not random experiences. They are your nervous system's way of guiding you toward the specific frequencies and vibrations that your body most needs in any given moment. The sound of a deep, extended or carries within it the frequency of profound settling, like the sound of a large bell slowly fading into silence. When you chant this ancient sound, you are not engaging in any particular religious practice. You are simply offering your nervous system one of the most universally calming vibrations that human beings have discovered through thousands of years of exploration into the healing power of sound. Similarly, the soft ah sound that naturally emerges when you truly relax carries the frequency of letting go, of release, of finally allowing yourself to drop the burden of constant vigilance and control. This is the sound that emerges spontaneously when you sink into a hot bath at the end of a long day, when you finally lie down after hours of being on your feet, when you let yourself be held by someone you trust completely. Working with sound in this way teaches you about the intimate connection between expression and healing. So many of us have learned to hold back our natural sounds, to suppress the sighs of relief, the sounds of pleasure, the vocal expressions of emotion that want to move through us. When you give yourself permission to make sound freely, you create pathways for stuck energy to move and transform, for emotions that have been locked in place to find their natural expression and release. The practice of vocal toning, creating sustained sounds on the exhale, becomes a form of meditation that engages both body and mind in the present moment. As you focus on the vibrations moving through your chest, your throat, your entire being, the mind naturally settles into a state of focused attention that is both deeply relaxing and vibrantly alive. One of the most profound aspects of sound healing is how it connects us to the vibrational nature of all existence. Modern physics tells us that everything in the universe is vibrating at specific frequencies, and the ancient wisdom traditions have always taught that we are beings of sound and light temporarily condensed into physical form. When we work consciously with sound, we align ourselves with this fundamental truth. using vibration to restore harmony and balance to our entire being. The effects of regular sound practice extend far beyond the moments when you are actually making sound. As your nervous system becomes accustomed to these healing frequencies, it begins to naturally gravitate towards states of greater calm and coherence throughout your day. You may find yourself humming unconsciously during stressful moments, or taking deeper, more vocal exhales when you need to release tension. This practice also transforms how you listen to the world around you. As you become more sensitive to the healing power of sound, you naturally begin to notice the sounds in your environment that support your well-being and those that drain your energy. You might find yourself drawn to the sound of wind in trees, the gentle lapping of water, or the soft sounds of classical music, while naturally avoiding harsh, jarring sounds that disturb your nervous system's newfound sense of peace. Creating healing sound is ultimately about giving yourself permission to take up space, to be heard, to express the fullness of your being without apology or restraint. In a world that often asks us to be quiet, to contain ourselves, to minimize our presence, the practice of conscious sound making becomes a profound act of self-love and reclamation of your right to exist fully and freely. There exists, within the ancient wisdom traditions, a profound understanding that our capacity for peace and resilience grows not from avoiding all discomfort, but from learning to meet certain forms of beneficial challenge with an open heart and steady presence. The nervous system, like a muscle, becomes stronger and more flexible when it is gently stressed in conscious, intentional ways that honor both our courage and our vulnerability. The practice of exposing ourselves to controlled temporary discomfort, whether through the shock of cold water, the emptiness of gentle fasting, or the challenge of sitting still when every fiber of our being wants to move, teaches our nervous system that it can remain calm and centered even when conditions are not perfectly comfortable. This is not about forcing ourselves to endure suffering, but about discovering that we are far more resilient than we might have believed. When you step into cold water or splash cold water on your face, something remarkable happens in the hidden pathways of your nervous system. The initial shock activates an ancient survival response that has been protecting human beings for millions of years. But when you breathe deeply and remain present, instead of immediately fleeing the discomfort, you teach your body a new response pattern. You show your nervous system that it is possible to stay calm and resourced even when facing something that initially feels overwhelming. This is the same nervous system that becomes activated during times of emotional stress, relationship conflict, or life uncertainty. By practicing with the manageable stress of cold water, you build capacity for remaining centered during the inevitable challenges that life will bring your way. Your nervous system learns that discomfort is temporary, that you can breathe through difficult sensations, and that challenges often transform into sources of strength when met with conscious awareness. The wisdom here is not in the cold water itself, but in how you relate to the experience. When you approach cold exposure with fierce resistance, trying to muscle through it with willpower alone, you create the same stress patterns that exhaust and overwhelm you in daily life. But when you meet the cold with soft attention, breathing deeply and allowing your body to adapt gradually, you discover that what initially felt impossible becomes not only manageable, but even refreshing and energizing. The ancient teachers understood that our relationship with discomfort reflects our relationship with life itself. Those who have learned to meet challenging sensations with equanimity naturally develop the capacity to remain present during emotional storms, to stay open-hearted when others are reactive, to find calm in the center of chaos. This is not about becoming indifferent or disconnected, but about developing such a stable foundation of inner peace that external circumstances cannot easily destabilize you. Gentle fasting, allowing yourself to experience the sensation of hunger without immediately satisfying it, offers another pathway for nervous system training that has been used by wisdom traditions for thousands of years. When you occasionally allow yourself to feel hungry without panic or reactivity, you teach your nervous system that not every sensation requires immediate action, that you can remain calm and present even when experiencing want or longing. This practice naturally extends into emotional life, where so many of us have developed patterns of immediately trying to escape or fix any uncomfortable feeling that arises. The capacity to sit with hunger, to breathe through it without being overwhelmed, builds the same steadiness that allows you to remain present with grief, anxiety, or disappointment without being consumed by these experiences. The key to all beneficial stress practices is the quality of loving awareness you bring to them. When you expose yourself to cold water while berating yourself for being weak, you miss the entire point of the practice. But when you approach these challenges with the same gentle curiosity you might bring to watching a sunset, you create conditions for genuine nervous system resilience to develop. Your nervous system is constantly learning from your responses to various situations. When you consistently meet challenge with presence rather than panic, with breath rather than tension, with curiosity rather than judgment, you gradually rewire your default responses in ways that serve you during all the unexpected difficulties that life inevitably presents. The practice of conscious challenge is also about developing trust in your own capacity to handle whatever arises. So many of us move through life with an underlying anxiety about whether we will be able to cope if something really difficult happens. By voluntarily practicing with manageable forms of stress, you build confidence in your own resilience, discovering reserves of strength and calm that you may have never known you possessed. These practices work because they engage the same pathways that become activated during times of genuine crisis, but in a controlled, safe environment where you can practice new responses. It is like learning to drive in an empty parking lot before navigating busy streets. You develop skills and confidence in conditions that allow for learning rather than mere survival. The transformation that comes from this work is not about becoming harder or more defended, but about developing such flexibility and responsiveness that you can bend without breaking, adapt without losing your center. You become like a tree that can weather strong winds because its roots run deep, and its branches know how to sway rather than resist. As you explore these practices, remember that the goal is never to prove your toughness or to push beyond what feels appropriate for your body and nervous system. Instead, you are learning to distinguish between the discomfort that teaches and strengthens, and the kind that overwhelms and depletes. This discernment itself becomes one of your greatest tools for navigating life with wisdom and grace. The cold water, the empty stomach, the challenge of sitting still when you want to move. These are all teachers that offer lessons in presence, patience, and trust in your own capacity to remain calm, regardless of external conditions. They show you that peace is not dependent on everything being comfortable, but on your ability to remain centered no matter what storms may come. The journey you have been walking through these teachings is not one that leads to a final destination where nervous system healing is complete and no further attention is needed. Instead, it is an endless path that deepens with each step, revealing new layers of understanding, new possibilities for peace, new ways of being present with the magnificent complexity of being human. This path becomes not a burden to maintain, but a source of continuous discovery and renewal that enriches every aspect of your life. True nervous system wellness is not about achieving a permanent state of calm where nothing ever disturbs your peace. Life is far too dynamic, too unpredictable, too full of genuine challenges for such a static state to be either possible or desirable. Instead, the healing you have been cultivating creates a foundation of resilience so strong, so flexible, that you can weather any storm while maintaining your essential sense of wholeness and connection to what matters most. The practices you have learned, the conscious breathing, the loving attention to your body, the healing power of sound, the wise relationship with beneficial challenge. These are not techniques to be mastered once and then forgotten. They are living practices that evolve with you, deepening as your understanding deepens, adapting as your life circumstances change, always offering new insights into the intimate relationship between your inner state and your outer experience. As you continue walking this path, you begin to notice that the healing you have been doing extends far beyond your own nervous system. The peace you cultivate within yourself becomes a gift to everyone whose life you touch. Your family feels it in the way you remain calm during stressful moments. Your friends notice it in the quality of presence you bring to conversations. Strangers sense it in the way you move through the world with a kind of settled confidence that makes them feel safer in their own bodies. This ripple effect is not something you create through effort. It happens naturally as your nervous system finds its optimal functioning. A regulated nervous system is inherently generous, naturally compassionate, automatically attuned to the well-being of others. When you are truly at peace within yourself, you become a source of peace for the world around you, contributing to a collective healing that extends far beyond what you might imagine possible. The path of nervous system wellness also becomes a practice of profound self-compassion. As you develop this intimate relationship with your own nervous system, you begin to understand how much it has been doing to keep you safe, how hard it has been working to help you navigate a world that often feels overwhelming or threatening. This understanding naturally softens any judgments you might have held about your anxiety, your reactivity, or your struggles with stress. You begin to see these responses not as personal failures, but as the intelligent attempts of a system that has been doing its best with the information and resources it has had available. This shift from self-criticism to self-compassion creates the very conditions that allow for the deepest levels of healing to occur. Your nervous system finally feels safe enough to let go of patterns that no longer serve you because it trusts that you will meet whatever arises with kindness rather than judgment. The daily integration of these practices becomes a form of moving meditation, a way of living that transforms ordinary activities into opportunities for nervous system nourishment. Washing dishes becomes a chance to practice mindful movement and breathing. Walking to your car becomes an opportunity to feel your feet on the ground and notice the sky above your head. Even challenging conversations become chances to practice staying present and resourced rather than reactive. This is where the true mastery lies. Not in perfect execution of specific techniques, but in the gradual transformation of how you meet each moment of your life. You develop what the ancient teachers called choiceless awareness, a quality of presence so natural and integrated that you no longer have to think about whether to breathe consciously or treat your body with kindness. These responses emerge spontaneously from your newly healed relationship with your own nervous system. The path also teaches you about the cyclical nature of healing. There will be days when your nervous system feels perfectly regulated, when peace flows through you effortlessly, when you wonder why you ever struggled with stress or anxiety. And there will be other days when old patterns resurface, when the practices feel difficult, when you might question whether you have made any progress at all. Both of these experiences are natural parts of the healing journey. The nervous system heals in spirals rather than straight lines, revisiting similar territory at deeper levels, integrating new understanding through repetition and practice. The wisdom lies in learning to trust this process, to stay committed to your practices even when their effects are not immediately obvious, to understand that healing happens in its own timing and cannot be forced or rushed. As the years pass, and these practices become as natural as breathing, you may find yourself serving as a source of inspiration for others who are just beginning their own journey of nervous system healing. Not through preaching or teaching, but simply through the way you move through life with a quality of presence that others can feel and recognize as something they want to cultivate in themselves. This is how wisdom traditions have always been passed on, not through books or lectures alone, but through the lived example of those who have walked the path and discovered its treasures. Your healed nervous system becomes a bridge that helps others remember their own capacity for peace, their own potential for transformation. If these teachings have touched something deep within you, if you feel called to continue exploring this path of inner healing, I warmly invite you to subscribe to the Pure Zen Life channel. Here, we gather as a community of seekers, supporting each other in the beautiful, challenging, endlessly rewarding work of awakening to our own wholeness. The path you have begun here is both ancient and timeless, both deeply personal and universally relevant. It is a path that honors both the wisdom of traditional teachings and the insights of modern understanding, weaving them together into an approach to healing that serves the unique needs of our time. Every step you take along this path is both a journey toward greater peace for yourself and a contribution to the healing of our interconnected world.